Good afternoon, students. Welcome to Indian Financial Marketing Services online class. Today we will discuss about the topic factoring. Okay, what is factoring? How factoring work? So, in simple word, we can say factoring is like an agent. It can be bank or non-banking financial institutions which give services to the business. Okay, and how they give services to the businesses and how factoring work, how factors work. We will cover all these topics under the factoring topic. Okay. So for that reason, discuss the. Let me share the factoring slides. Okay. Wait a minute. Okay. So learning about the factoring, we need to learn some. We need to know about some history of factoring. Like in ancient Rome, rich manufacturers and merchants used a mercantile agent or factor. Okay, here the agent is called as factor. Why and what who? So the agent or factor to administer their sales of their merchandise. Okay. So in ancient Rome, rich manufacturers and merchants do what they do. They actually take the helps of the agents or factors who do the sales and their merchandise on the behalf of these rich manufacturers and merchants. Okay. And from the 16th of centuries, exporters of consumers goods from Europe take the help of mercantile agents or factors to promote their trade. And significant demand for European merchandise was increasing from the 16th of century because of their services and because of their work. Okay, so the demand of factor grew at USA and UK and France also. So to start from the Rome and then come to the uh, US and then UK and then France. And factors are specialized financial institutions. Okay, we can say like the banks, the non-banking financial institutions, they all are work as a factor for the manufacturers, for the sellers, or in short, we can say for the businesses. So main function of factors are to is the working capital assistance. They provide the working capital assistance, physical possession of the goods, okay, sending consignment, sorting them, finding buyers, and selling and receiving payments. Okay, so these are the all the work of the factors. So how factoring come in India and how factoring work in India? So in India, the factoring process was first started by the State Bank of India, the association with small scale industries development bank of India. Okay, so first of all, the factoring services in India was established by the okay, with the association of small industries, Union Bank of State Bank, or State Bank. So you see, you explain that these banks are given the services of the factoring, and these all banks are known as factor in India, right? And primary factoring companies founded by SBI is called SBI Fax. That is XBI Factors and Commercial Services Private Limited. That is started in July 1991. For providing the factoring services, so for working as a factor in India, what SBI do? SBI set up a factor in commercial services private limited. Okay, and it was set up in the year 1991. So that's why I'm telling you that the factoring services are given by the non-banks and non-banking financial institutions. Both of these institutions will be factoring services, and both are these institutions, the bank and the non-banking financial institutions, are known as an agent or factor. So factoring businesses can be done by NBFs or banks, and RBI regulate the factoring business. Why RBI regulating these factoring businesses? Because banks are involved in these services. That's why RBI regulate the factoring services. Or in other words, you can say the rules and regulations are applicable in the factoring services are made by the RBI. Okay. Now. RBI regulate the factoring services. Okay, and non-banking finance companies. What are the non-banking financial companies? Those companies that work like a bank but not doing the actual services of it. Means they are not giving they are not doing savings or lending loans. They are just giving the services of banks. Okay. So which intend to engage itself in the factoring has to fulfill the principal test. Okay. So to test the NBFC, the principal business is factoring, and they need to follow these two conditions. First is its financial assets in the factoring business are more than 50% of the total assets, and if its income from manufacturing business is more than 50%, then it can be worked as a non-banking financial finance companies as a factoring. Okay. So in 2017, the total volume of factoring was 3 lakh 36,181 million domestic sector was limited. Okay, a factor which hindered the growth of lack of dependence, okay, high interest rate and complex documentation. These are the can say the disadvantages of or we can say hinders of to the growth of the factoring. But most of the factoring services, the banks and non-banking financial companies giving the factoring services to the businesses. How? किस तरीके से सर्विसेज देती है मैं आपको इस डायग्राम के थ्रू समझाती हूँ. ठीक है. I hope it is visible to all of you. Is it visible? Is it, this diagram is visible to all of you or not?
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Abhishek,
It's visible.
okay. It is visible. Okay.
Yes, yes,
So,
ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. It is visible, ma'am.
yes. Okay, better. So, how factoring companies give factoring services to the companies? See, there is a seller. Seller, who is seller? The company. The sellers sell the goods or send the goods to the sell the goods to the buyer on the credit basis. Okay, for example, if a business sell the goods to the buyer on the credit basis, and what he done because he sold the goods on the credit. Yes, students. So, uh, company company sell on the credit to the buyer goods जो है उसे सेल कर दिया buyer को. Okay, credit बेसिस. Okay, अभी buyer क्या करेगा? और उससे पहले मैं आपको एक चीज बता देती हूँ, जैसे कि सेलर ने सेल कर दिया गुड्स क्रेडिट पे बायर को. उसके बाद सेलर क्या करेगा? वो फैक्टर के पास जाएगा. हु इज द फैक्टर? बैंक एंड नॉन बैंक फाइनेंशियल इंस्टीट्यूशन. ओके. ये क्या करेगा? सेलर ये कहेगा अब क्योंकि उसने क्रेडिट पे जो है वो गुड्स सेल किया है बायर को, तो एक टाइम पीरियड के लिए होगा. यू ऑल नो दैट व्हेनेवर अ बिजनेस सेल गुड्स ऑन अ क्रेडिट बेसिस, देन इट मींस दैट द कैश पेमेंट विल बी सेटल ऑन अ फ्यूचर डेट. सो फ्यूचर डेट तक के ये सेलर काम कैसे करेगा अपना? क्योंकि बिजनेस को तो बेटा जो है अमाउंट चाहिए, पैसे चाहिए अपने बिजनेस को रन करने के लिए. तो फॉर दैट टाइम ऑफ पीरियड जो सेलर है, जो बिजनेस है, वो कैसे काम करेगा, जो कंपनी वो कैसे काम करेगी? फॉर दैट पर्पस सेलर जो होगा वो फैक्टर के पास जाएगा. वो फैक्टर के पास क्या करेगा? वो इनवॉइस सेंड करेगा. एज यू कैन सी इन द सेंड इनवॉइसेस. ओके. अगेंस्ट ये जो सेलर है जिसने गुड्स सेंड किया बायर को, वो सबसे पहले तो इसको इनवॉइस भेजेगा और इस इनवॉइस के अगेंस्ट में फैक्टर को क्या करेगा? वो इनवॉइस भेजेगा उसमें जो कि सारा अमाउंट मेंशन होगा कि मैंने कितने अमाउंट पे जो है क्रेडिट पे पैसा जो क्रेडिट पे गुड्स सेंड किया. अब फैक्टर क्या करेगा? इस इनवॉइस के अगेंस्ट में 80 to 90% फंड जो है वो सेलर को प्रोवाइड कर देगा. राइट. सेलर ने सबसे पहले क्रेडिट पे गुड्स सेल किया बायर को, उसको इनवॉइस सेंड किया और इसी इनवॉइस के अगेंस्ट में उसने फैक्टर को इनवॉइस भेजा और फैक्टर ने क्या किया? इस इनवॉइस के अगेंस्ट में 80 to 90% फंड जो है वो रिलीज कर दिया सेलर. राइट. अब क्या होगा बच्चों? अब फ्यूचर में जब कैश पेमेंट होगा तो बायर क्या करेगा? बायर कैश इसको नहीं, सेलर को नहीं देगा. बायर पेमेंट करेगा कैश किसको? फैक्टर को. राइट. इन केस अगर बायर फैक्टर को पैसा नहीं देता है तो फैक्टर क्या करेगा? उस पैसे को सेलर से क्या कर देगा? उसको वहां से रिकवर करेगा. तो ओवरऑल जो इस डायग्राम का जो डिस्क्रिप्शन है वो ये कहता है कि सेलर क्रेडिट पे जब गुड्स बायर को सेंड करता है, क्योंकि एक टाइम पीरियड के बाद एक फ्यूचर डेट में कैश सेटलमेंट होगा, तो बायर सेलर का ये कहना है कि उस टाइम पीरियड के लिए मुझे कैसे बिजनेस करना है, मुझे तो पैसा चाहिए, क्योंकि इसने तो कहते हैं भाई 1 मंथ के बाद या 2 मंथ के बाद मैं पेमेंट करूंगा। तो सेलर क्या करता है, इस इनवाइस उसने बायर को भेजी है, वो इनवाइस जो रहता है वो इनवाइस साइन कर देता है फैक्टर को, और फैक्टर उस इनवाइस के अगेंस्ट में 80 to 90% फंड जो है वो सेलर को रिलीज कर देता है कि भाई अभी आप इसको पैसे दीजिए, एंड तब तक आप अपना काम चलाइए जब तक कि बायर से पैसा नहीं मिल जाता। And at the time of the payment, buyer will pay to the factor. Okay, and in case if buyer is not unable to pay the factor, then what will be do? The factor will recover this amount to the seller, not the buyer, because factor has already released the fund again on the against the invoices to the seller. Okay, so this is how factor or an agent or a bank or if a non-banking financial institution gives services to the seller. ओके, बेसिकली यहाँ पे मेन पर्पस फैक्टर का क्या है कि जो ये यहाँ पे गुड्स सेल किया गया है जिसका उसको अमाउंट फ्यूचर में मिलना चाहिए था, वो उस इनवॉइस के अगेंस्ट में फैक्टर उसको दे देता है, एंड देन रिकवरी जो होती है वो बायर से करता है, बायर विल पे टू द फैक्टर नॉट टू द सेलर। ओवरऑल सेलर को जो है और पैसा चाहिए अपने बिजनेस को रन करने के लिए, क्योंकि वो फ्यूचर डेट तक वेट नहीं कर सकता है, दैट्स व्हाई जो है फैक्टर से अरेंजमेंट करता है। Okay, student, I hope you all understand. Okay, so we can say the word factor has been derived from the Latin word facere, which means to make or to do. It means things to get things done. Things to get things done means things to get from here. For what purpose? For running the business, right? And factor is an agent who does things for his client. Now here for a consideration called commission. So for this reason, now seller is a customer, factor is an agent, and factor is giving fund against of the invoices to the seller, and for that purpose he charges a commissions. Okay. And in factoring, a company or firm converts its receivables into cash by selling them to a factor agent or institutions at discount. The factor assumes the risk of collection and loss of the debts falls on the factor. Okay, so this is the meaning of the factor. So we can analyze that, we can understand that a factor is an agent. Okay, it can be a bank or non-banking financial institution. So according to the VA of the economics, and he gave the definition of factoring. According to him, the factoring is a service of financial nature involving the conversion of credit bills into cash. Okay, credit sales bill into cash, as I told you in this graph. Okay, sellers sell the goods on the credit and send invoices to the buyer. So that invoice is a credit invoice. Okay, then after he assigned this invoice to the factor for getting the payment, and factor what factor did? Factor release the fund against of this invoice. Okay, so that's why the definition is saying the factoring is a service of financial nature involving the conversion of credit wealth into cash. And according to Robert W. Johnson, he is also an economist, and he gave the definition that factoring is a service involving the purchase by a financial organization called a factor or receivables or to manufacturers and distributors by their customer, with the factor assuming full credit and collection responsibilities. So these are the definition of factoring that is given by some economists. Okay. How now? What is the process of factoring? So factoring arrangement between the client and the factor, that is financial organization. You can see here this. Okay. Factoring is a arrangement between the customer and the agent. Okay, who is the customer? The seller. And again, at the time of the payment, who is the customer? The buyer. Okay, so it is a arrangement. Okay. The first process is the factoring arrangement between the client and the factor. Second is client sell goods to the trade customers on credit, and he prepare invoices in useful ways. Normally, businesses sell goods to or companies sell goods to customers. Okay, in cash and credit both basis. But for taking the factoring services, when company take the factoring services, when the companies sell the goods on the credit base, okay, and after selling the credit goods, he prepare the business prepare the invoices, okay. Now the third process is the goods are sent to buyer with invoice but without bill of exchange, okay. So at the time of the selling of the goods on the trade basis, what company to company send the invoice with the goods, but without the bill of exchange. The debit due by the purchases to the client is assigned to the factors. Okay, so whatever the amount of credit purchase that is due by the purchaser, that amount is we can say that that amount is assigned to the factor. Why? Because now business want the immediate cash. He's not able to he's not want to wait for the future date cash agreement. He want immediate cash. That's why the credit amount which is due by the purchaser is assigned to the factor for getting the cash. Okay. Now invoices are hand over to the factor under over of a schedule of offer along with the copies of invoices in the receipt. Okay. Then after assigning the amount, what is the next process? Is the release of fund by the factor against the invoices, and it can be up to 80 to 90% to the seller, the company. Okay. Okay, students. आपने ये डायग्राम देखा था, इसे आप डायग्राम में देखिए, ये सारी चीजें यहाँ पे दिखाई गई थी. Okay. Now, what are the terms and condition that is related to the factoring process? Okay. So the first one is assignment of debt in favor of the factor. Okay, so that should be assigned to the factor. Okay, it should be in the favor of the factor. Selling limits to the seller, right? And conditions within which we will have recourse to the client in case of non-repayment, right? So the condition within which will have recourse to the client in case of non-payment, and detail of discount means if there is any discount to the purchaser, if there is a mention of any discount with the invoices for the client for the purchaser. So it should be clear to the factor also. What are the discounts? Okay. Interest to be allowed to the factor on account where credit has been sanctioned to the supplier. Okay, if there is any interest provision, then it should be uh, allowed to be factor on the account where credit has been sanctioned to the supplier. Then limit of any overdraft facility. If there is any overdraft facility, these are the terms and conditions. Basically, the terms and condition, these terms and conditions are related to the factor is main related to the purchaser. Purchaser, whatever the terms and condition is applicable on that credit sale, it should be assigned to the factory, because the seller is assigning the invoice to the factor, to the agent, okay, for getting the cash. Okay. So these are the terms and conditions. Now, what are the functions? The first function is factoring involves the following. The first function is purchase and collection of debts. Okay, purchase and collection of debt means what is the credit debt, and what is the amount of credit debt and how it will collect. Okay, sale ledger management, it is very important to prepare the sale ledger management. Then credit investigation and undertaking of credit risk, if there is any credit risk involved, means is it there any book debts. Okay, अगर कोई book debts है तो आपको sorry, not book debts, it's bad debts. So if there is any bad debts, means if purchaser is not able to do the payment, if he is not in a stable mind, कोई भी कंडीशन हो सकती है कि परचेजर जो है वो प्रेजेंट कैश सेटलमेंट डेट पे प्रेजेंट ही ना हो. ओके, in short we can say if there is any bad debt, so how will factor will recover the money. Okay, so obviously he will recover from the seller. So it is very important for the seller to analyze the credit risk, because overall at the end of the time he is liable to pay the debt amount. Okay, not the factor. Now, provision of finance against debts, okay, and rendering consultancy services. So these all are the functions of the factoring, which are given by the factor or agent. Okay. So overall, we can say that whatever the fund is released by factor to the seller on against of the invoice, it should be recoverable in both sense. Means if purchaser pay the debt amount, paid amount, it should be paid to the factor. And if it is not, then factor will recover from the seller. Okay. What are the benefits of factoring? Immediate increase in cash flow. Obviously, seller need immediate cash for the credit sale. We take the services of the factor. Okay, so it will immediately increase the cash flow of the seller. Less cost, obviously. Professional collections, invoice processing, everything is happening on the basis of the invoice, right? Offers credit terms to the customers. Sources of finance, it can be one of the source of finance to the seller. Invoices are paid faster. Really? Okay. Invoices are paid faster. Why? Because now seller is not forcing to wait for the future cash settlement. He can immediately take the cash from the factor on the against of the invoice. Credit screening, obviously, and adequate cash flow, right? So these are the benefits of factoring, and you can assume that factoring is very beneficial for the sellers who want immediate cash, okay, who want to increase immediate increase in their cash flows, right? And with the credit risk analysis. Now, what is factoring and what is discounting? Means what are the differences between factoring and discounting? So, factoring broader terms covering the entire trade debt of client. Okay, and discounting covers only trade debt which are backed by trade receivables. When we give the discount, when a customer required the discount, when he was a regular customer or when he in the good relationship with the seller, okay. But in the factoring, there is no provision for the good relationship or for the long-term customers. It only purpose of the factoring is to cover the entire trade debt of the client, whether it is new or not, or old client. Okay, factor purchases the trade debt and becomes holder of the value. Obviously, when seller assign the invoice to the factor and factor release the fund to the seller, what will happen? The factor will become the owner of the we can say the owner of the or holder of the invoice. Okay, okay, for the value. But under discounting, the financial act as an agent, and it is advised against bills, and the discounting is also possible. So discounting is not like a ownership, okay, but factoring can be treated as a ownership. Factoring off balance sheet financing and discounting is an imbalance sheet financing. So these are the basic difference between the factoring and discounting. So in short, we can say the factoring is a broader term and it covers the entire trade of client. Okay, but not in the case of discounting. Discounting only covers trade debt which are backed by trade receivables. Okay, and factor means the ownership or the holder of the value, but it is not in the case of discounting. Discounting is just like a it's a discount against bills and discount against bills. We can use. And factoring is off balance sheet financing, and discounting is an in balance sheet financing. Okay, so you can see in this picture with resources factor, you can see factor is giving finance and client, there is a credit sale, there is a buyer. Okay, again the buyer factor and the buyer. Okay, so what this diagram is describing us, there is a factor, for example, there is a bank, it is a client. Who is client? The seller, the company. Okay, and here is the buyer. Client is selling, doing credit sale to the buyer, and factor is agent taking amount by the buyer. Okay, why? Because the uh, assign the invoice to the factor, and factor has released finance to the client. Okay, now here as you can see, risk in risk risk if as pay a value to the factor, then factor will recover fund from the okay. The payment. So there is a risk always involved in for in it. that. So, then what a client will create to those buyers, those those purchaser जो उनके बहुत existing customers हैं, right? Means यहाँ पे credit से पहले he has to the background of the buyer. But over it is the client is not very future. We can get immediate cash, and then we can increase their cash flow from factor. Okay, on this is on this. Okay, students. So this is all about the factor. And I hope you understand what factoring is beneficial to those companies immediate uh, immediate cash. And in present time, most of the companies are doing great sales, right? As you know that bank is like here in factoring, bank is act like as an agent. He is just like a आप कह सकते हैं कि वो buyer के behalf में जो है वो payment कर देता है seller को, और seller को immediate cash मिल जाता है. Factor जो होता है उनको उसमें बदले में कुछ commissions भी होते हैं, and और सकते भाई अब रिकवरी कर सकते हैं, बट also रिकवरी कर सकते हैं. Okay, so also factory is can see from here. Yes, it is definitely, yeah. See here, the regulation of IBI, and it is finance. It is supported by the State Bank of India, Small Industries Development Bank of India, Union Bank of India, State Bank of Saurashtra, State Bank of Indore, and also the SBI has established SBI Factor Commercial Services Private Limited. So these all factoring institutions, all non-banking financial companies help sellers to get immediate cash. Okay, right, friends. So this is all about the factoring, and I hope you all understand. That's all for today. Thank you.